Hi, I'm Azara Tagaya, your host for Ringgit Sense. For many fresh graduates, the first major purchase they make after getting a job is to buy a car. Now, taking into consideration salary and car prices, some might find themselves asking whether they should buy a new car or a used car. While a used car may be cheaper, there are many things to consider, like how much will the maintenance cost? Or how do you know if the car has ever been involved in an accident? Well, we visited a used car dealer to ask for tips on inspecting a second-hand car. Let's watch. Today we are at Sungai Besi Auto World, where there are more than 80 used car dealers here. And we're here to speak to one of them, Cheong Yu Hor, to find out what we should look at when finding a used car. Okay, so Cheong, we're buying a second-hand car. What's the first thing we should look out for?
Okay, so we want to check the car first.
Okay, so what are the things that we have to look at first?
Okay, so first point is we will check the wheel first. Okay, the joint. This is the original one. Okay, and this is the point. This is all is the original part.
How do you know it's original and it hasn't been in an accident or anything like that?
Okay, it's an accident. It's a joint. It's not same like this. It's a reading.
Okay, so it's a little bit. How do you say? It's a little bit different than this?
Yes, different.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the joints of the car. What about the engine? How do we know the engine is?
Yes, and the engine is a oil leakage. Okay, so you can check your engine first. Okay, and the style is normally is a smooth one.
Okay. So this is a good engine.
Yes.
How do we know that? By the color.
No, we will start the car.
Oh,
start the car.
Okay. Okay, so moving on to the body of the car.
Okay.
When we are looking for a car, we are afraid that it's an illegal car or maybe kereta potong, so to speak. So how do we identify that the car that we are buying is actually not one of those cars?
Okay, basically, we want to check the car. We can check here.
Okay, so we have to take that off.
Okay, this is all original mark. If for sampung or joy one,
Oh, it might be separated somewhere here. Okay, so if you see something like that, then that's a big sign.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so what about the rear of the car? What do we look at?
Okay, so you want to check the point. This is a point and this is a joint. Okay, this is the original point also.
Okay, so look at the points and the joints.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so if it's smooth, then it's not a kereta potong and it hasn't been an accident.
It's accident car. Here all is not
as smooth.
Yes, not as smooth.
I see. Okay.
Okay, and so here.
So there you have it, some tips on finding a second-hand car, what you should look out for, and whether you should buy a brand new car or a used car. Today in the studio with us, we have Kon Wai Lun, editor of Carlist.my. Hi there.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, talking about a second-hand car, the first thing that a young working adult should look out for when they're deciding, should I buy a new car or a second-hand car? What should they take into consideration? Is it salary? Is it the type of car they want?
Of course, it all starts with your salary, what you can afford. Okay, so especially if you're buying on financing, okay, the golden rule of thumb is your car loan plus whatever commitments that you already have should not exceed 1/3 of your monthly repayments. So with that in mind, you can work backwards on your budget and what you can afford lah.
Okay, so let's say the typical working adult makes something around 2,000 to 3,000, maybe 4,000 ringgit. So what type of car should they be going for?
You mean between new and used?
Yeah.
Once again, I say it really depends on what you are looking for. For a headache-free experience, definitely go for a new car because you get factory warranty. You get lower interest rates.
Okay, so if you're looking for a brand new car and you're a young working adult with the type of salary that I mentioned just now, what cars should you buy specifically?
It has to be from the national mix because those cars are the ones with the price that fits the budget. So you're definitely looking at a Pro Duo Asia or a Beza or even a Proton Saga.
Okay.
These are the more affordable entry-level variants lah.
I see. Okay, what about people who have their first car, and usually it is a national car. Sometimes it's a Myvi or an Axia, and they're looking to move on to a brand new car, their second car.
Yeah.
So this time they're most probably looking for something international.
Okay,
so what type of brands should they look at?
This one, because not... Okay, so you started off with a 40,000 thereabouts budget. So your next car, maybe you're looking at 80,000 or 100,000. So your pool of choices now becomes wider. And once again, the question you need to ask yourself is, first, okay, what is your budget? Now that that's answered, then what is it that you're looking for in a car? Are you a bachelor? Are you married? Or do you just have kids? So then you have to think about what you're looking for within these constraints.
Okay.
Yeah. So the safer brands to look at would definitely be the more established Japanese makes, okay? The Toyotas, the Hondas, the Nissans, to a certain extent Mazda, because these brands, they have a very established dealership network, okay? So in the event that you need to service your car or you need to repair your car, you have a wide array of dealers to choose from to have your car sorted out.
Okay, so in terms of these brands of cars, let's say a Honda or a Toyota, a Vios and stuff like that, which one has the lowest maintenance costs or fuel costs? Which is the best for a young working adult looking to save money at the same time?
Looking to save money. The default choice at the moment in the market is really between the City and the Vios. I cannot really comment specifically on specifics, but in general, okay, Toyotas are generally known to be quite easy on the wallet to maintain lah.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so we've pretty much covered about brand new cars and what to look out for. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk to you about what to look for when buying a second-hand car and what you should actually prepare in terms of documentation. So we'll be back right after this on Ringgit Sense. Hey, I'm Azara Tagaya and you're back with us on Ringgit Sense. Right now, we're speaking to Kon Wai Lun, the editor of Carlist.my, talking about buying a car. Okay, Kon, just now we spoke about buying a brand new car and you told us about some of the brands that we can look at. So what if we are looking to buy a second-hand car?
Yeah.
What then should we look out for in terms of documentation, checking the background and history of the car? What should we do?
Oh, yeah. Well, when you buy a used car, there is definitely a lot more homework to do. Okay, because these cars are not fresh from the factory, so they were in possession of a previous owner, and you do not know what is the history of that car, whether has it been properly maintained or not. So first thing when you look out for when you buy a used car, okay, most people buy their cars online these days.
Yeah.
So when you go through a used car listing site, okay, be it Carlist or any of our other alternatives in the market, check that be sure that the listing is genuine. Okay. So for the consumer, the smart tip is, if a deal appears too good to be true,
it probably is.
It probably is.
Okay.
Yeah. So in any case, whatever that you do not pay any money until you have seen the car, until you have seen the documentation, because very common scams, okay, involve a seller advertising a car at a ridiculously cheap price, okay? Then when you call and ask, is that car available? You say, oh, I've got 5 other people looking at that car, all right? If you want to hold the car, you pay me a deposit first, I hold the car for you, okay? And usually these kind of cars that are used for these scams, right, are those very collectible kind of cars that are, those are the cars that the enthusiasts want, and those are with a very high want factor cars. So it's like, and they're probably a bit rare. Okay, so there is that drive for people to want to go and get it as quickly as possible. So don't be pressured to pay money. Yeah, if at any point in time the seller is pushing you for money before even letting you see the car, walk away from the deal.
I see. Yeah. So in those types of situations, what should you do? Should you go and see the car yourself? Can you have a test drive before you pay anything?
Yes, you should see the car. You should insist on a test drive.
Okay.
And you should also have a trusted mechanic to check the car. Because, okay, although Puspacom has your usual B5 and B7 inspections, you should also get your own mechanic to inspect your car, just to get an overview. Because you must remember, a used car has been on the road for some time, so it will have accumulated some wear and tear. At the very least, your mechanic will be able to tell you, okay, this part needs to change, that part needs to change. It is nothing out of the ordinary, but standard wear and tear that you just have to take care of before you take possession of the car.
Okay, so that's in terms of duping the customer with something that may not be in existence and you pay money first. What about cars which are sold for ridiculously cheap prices? Let's say a BMW just for 10,000 ringgit. Why?
Okay, in some cases, these cars are legitimately cheap because I mean, the demand for them is low, or maybe they are just.
It's an old model.
It's an old model,
okay.
yeah. So some of these cars typically follow a depreciation cycle where the value starts from new, it goes down, and then it will either stay there, or in some cars they may actually climb back up again because they assume the status of a classic. Yeah. So that all cars will reach that point where they are, where they become dirt cheap. Yeah. Some cars climb back up, but some they stay dirt cheap lah.
I see. And the reason they climb back up is because of market demand? Or?
Market demand. A lot of these demand are enthusiast-driven. So I give you an example. Say a Toyota Corolla from the 1980s, the KE30 or the AE86. Those cars back in the day, okay, back in the days of our fathers, they were every man's cars.
Yeah.
Okay, but this day and age, youngsters buy these cars as as playthings, for their drifting and all that. So these kind of activities have spurred demand for these cars that see their value climb back up.
I see. Collectibles more or less.
Collectibles, correct, yes.
Okay, what about fresh graduates who are looking for a first car and they are looking at Perduas, maybe a Myvi or an Axia, but they want to buy a second-hand one. So should they, because most probably people who have been the first-hand users of that car have been using it all the way, because it's their first car.
Correct.
So should they go for these brands?
By all means, go for it. But
check first.
Our earlier advice applies. Check that check the condition of the car, ensure that the deal is legitimate. Okay, if you want to be a bit more, you want a safer choice. Okay, when you go to online listing websites, okay, Carlist or any of our competitors, right, you can look for dealers. For us, we call them trusted dealers, but I'm sure our competitors, they also have a similar scheme. Yeah. Okay, basically these dealers, they pay a certain amount of money to advertise on these websites. Okay, and what it implies is that these dealers, they run a legitimate business. That's why they pay to advertise their cars. Okay, so if you go to these dealers, okay, whether you get a good deal or not, that's up to your negotiation skill as a buyer. Yeah. But you will definitely be walking into a legitimate business outlet with a car to sell you.
I see. Okay. What about in terms of what to look out for? Just now in the VT, we saw that physically we can check for any cuts or any missing screws to know that if it's been in an accident, some of those things will be missing. Yeah. What about in terms of checking like the engine or the timing belt? Anything to look out for when you're buying a second-hand car?
This goes back to my earlier advice of getting your trusted mechanic to run through the car. Things like cut and join, those things will show up very easily, even if your mechanic missed it, and a good mechanic won't miss it. But even if it was missed, it will show up at the Puspacom inspection.
I see.
Okay? Cut and joint will definitely show up at the Puspacom inspection. But things like your the mechanical integrity of that car, like how well the engine, the smoothness of the engine, that one can be evaluated by a competent mechanic.
I see.
So as long as you have a trusted technician or foreman or mechanic to look over the car, right, you can be quite assured of its mechanical competency.
I see. Okay, we'll speak more about buying a second-hand car when we come back from the break. Right now, Ringgit Sense is going for a short break. We'll be back after this. Back on Ringgit Sense with me, Azara Tagaya, and we are still talking about buying a second-hand car. In the studio with us, we have Kon Wailun, the editor of Carlist.my. Okay, Kon, so moving into the last part of our discussion, we spoke about car prices earlier. So you mentioned that we can actually talk to the dealer, and is it possible for us to negotiate the price? And can we get a discount?
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, because cars are... it's a depreciating asset. Okay, a used car dealer who takes in a used car, okay, he just bought an asset that is a goods that's depreciating. Okay, so if that car has been sitting in his yard for 6 months, 1 year, definitely you can knock the price of the car for sure.
I see. Okay, so that's if you're buying from a dealer. If you're buying from a website like CarList and other car websites, usually they have the name of the dealer that you can actually visit them if you want.
Correct.
What about if the seller is someone who is selling their own car? Advertising on these websites where you can just register and put a picture of your car. So what should the buyer look out for in those types of cases?
It goes back to what we answered earlier.
The same thing. The same checklist applies.
The same checklist applies. Check the vehicle's condition. Check the legitimacy of its documentation. Okay. Once you're satisfied that everything is in order, go ahead and that's where you start your negotiation. I mean, there is always a gap, a discrepancy between the listed price versus the transacted price. That there is no way we can track one. Okay, because transacted price is between buyer and seller. Okay, it is really up to how we negotiate with each other. So as a savvy buyer, there is really no harm to ask for a lower price. So let's say like a car is advertising for 21,000 ringgit. Maybe you look at the car, the listing, you say, okay, mentally you are probably prepared to pay 21,000 ringgit.
Yeah.
But there is no harm asking if the seller would do business at 18. There's absolutely no harm in that. So see it's really how you negotiate with the seller.
So talking about buying the car from someone who is selling a personal asset. So they're selling the car and they haven't finished paying the loan.
Yeah.
So what happens when the seller asks you to continue paying the loan when you buy the car from them? It's a sambung bayar type of thing.
Don't get into that.
Okay.
Absolutely don't get into that.
Absolutely
there is
not.
a lot of legal entanglements that can happen, which is actually too wide to even discuss in the scope of this program. My advice, absolutely don't get into that.
I see. So if you encounter this type of seller, just
don't even think about it.
And go on to the next one. I see. Yeah. Okay. So what about the viewers who are looking to buy a car and they're still thinking of whether to buy a brand new car or a second-hand car? And they're asking, what are the pros and cons of buying a second-hand car? Give us the pros so that it can influence their decision. Okay,
the pros of buying a second-hand car. Okay, when you buy a second-hand car, first, the bulk of that car's depreciation is absorbed by the first buyer. Okay, so let's say like you're looking at a 150,000 car. In the first year alone, that car will probably have lost 30 to 40,000 of its value. So the first buyer would have absorbed that depreciation for you. Okay, that's one. Second is, if you're buying a used car, you have that option of buying a car one segment higher than you would be able to afford if you're buying a new car. So if you're, let's say like right now, you're looking at a 50,000 budget. Brand new, you're talking about a Myvi, a Proton Persona. But if you're looking at in the used market, you can net yourself anything from a 3 to 5 year old Honda to a 7, 8 year old BMW. Okay. Okay, before we wrap though, what would be your advice to our viewers? Most of them are young working adults, maybe their first job. So they're looking to buy a car. What would be your one advice to them? How long should they wait after starting their first job before buying their car? What type of car they should look for? Simple tips. Okay, simple tips. One, buy within your budget. Okay, look at how much you're making each month. Okay, follow that 1/3 rule again. Add up all your commitments. See how much room you have left for your car installment. Okay, of course, also save up for your down payment lah. Save up for your down payment. And as for what type of car to buy, right? That one really it boils down to your personal taste. So, what I would say is buy something that you like so that you don't regret your purchase. Okay, good tip then. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Con, about buying a second-hand car. Hopefully our viewers will pick up something from our discussion today. Okay, now, besides buying a car, some people are also relying on public transport to get to and from work. And especially if you're living in the Klang Valley, then the MRT would be a popular choice. We took a ride on the MRT this week to find out why many have switched from driving to taking the train.
I'm staying quite some distance away, so now my travelling expenses per day is only close to 12 ringgit, inclusive of the parking, as compared to maybe every single month my toll and my fuel surcharge alone is like close to 500. So now I keep it at 200 plus. So it's a lot of saving for me too.
Using the car is cheaper, I find, because if I were to take the MRT from home to campus and campus back to home, it will cost 10 ringgit or closer.
As you know, petrol price is going up on a weekly basis. Definitely it is expensive. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of convenience, I think definitely MRT is still the best choice. Yeah.
I think the key is the time. No traffic jam, no pollution. And when you reach from one station to another station, you can go by public taxi to connect.
Public transport, I mean, in terms of MRT, is definitely convenient, yes. Yeah, I mean, reason being is actually because first thing definitely is in terms of getting to the destination, yeah. And then it will be very much convenient. I mean, we don't have to go through all the traffic jam and so forth, and also parking the car will be another thing. And then I guess MRT is situated at the very strategic locations.
Pertama, there's no stress, tak ada stress lah. Then secondly, you save a lot of time. Sekarang macam hujan ni kan. I don't know macam tadi kan, kita nak bawa kereta. I don't know what time I will sampai dekat KLCC, you know, can be 1 hour. And especially kalau I nak keluar pukul 6, waktu tu kan orang semua keluar daripada pejabat kan, daripada office. Jadi it's horrendous lah, teruk lah.
I think going forward with the next line going to be up soon, right? So I think I can see a lot of people like moving from driving to work or driving to places to shift to like taking MRT.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you want to watch these stories from today's show or previous episodes, go to our Facebook page, Ringgit Sense TV3, and you can like it as well. Next week, we'll be talking about the rising cost of healthcare and how it affects you. I'm Azaria Tagaya, and I will see you next week.